I know I stand on the way between you and the party after that, so I'm going to try to be entertaining anyway. I spoke with Thomas a long time ago saying this conference is a great place to actually meet the web developers, and we wanted to interact a little bit more and let you know about how the web evolved, right? So I invited one of my mentors, Daniel Burnett, that has been an invited expert and a chairman for a long time. Next slide, Dan. And what we really want to speak about today is three questions, right? How was the web and internet created? Next slide. How does it keep evolving? Well, you saw a lot of examples yesterday, and today I saw at least two presentations today speaking about HTTP2 that was created in something called IETF and other working group and so on and so forth. So how does it work exactly, and how can you not only benefit from it, but create the next version of the web, HTML5, HTML6? Next slide. And even better, how can you actually take the control and go on the driver's seat and say, I want to be part of HTML6. I have some very, very good idea, and I don't want that to be on the framework. I want it to be the next web. I want to make a difference. I want to change the world, and I want it better than Flappy Bird 2. Right? So that's basically the three questions we're going to try to address during the presentation today. We're using a WebRTC technology right now, which is part of HTML5 to screen those slides directly from Atlanta. And Daniel is going to join us from there directly. Next slide. So that's why I'm saying next slide all the time. He has a control. So where are we? My name is unpronounceable, so everybody call me Dr. Alex. And I'm an invited expert as IETF, W3C, and a few other standard committee in the world with a specialty on WebRTC. And what makes me a little bit different is I'm the only one from Southeast Asia attending those meetings. And I'm based in Singapore. So I wanted to give back a little bit to the Southeast Asia and Singapore community. And now I will let Dan introduce himself.
Hi, everyone.
And we don't have audio. Wait, Dan, we don't hear you. So it's supposedly plugged in. Can someone from the technical staff give us a hand here?
That looks good.
I got that here. Go on, Dan.
Again?
Try again.
Hi, everyone. Can you
Not
hear me
yet.
now?
We hear something. But
We hear from the back, but not
yeah. Just when you need them.
the beauty of technology.
Ah, there's somebody running. Can you say again?
Yes.
We can hear him from the back, but he doesn't seem to be connected to the speakers.
Test.
Technology.
Test. 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 Test.
So, tell me.
Go back.
Testing. Test. 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 Test.
Here, this one.
Testing.
So you're already on the right one.
Oh. Testing.
Do you want to run this or doesn't affect, right? Yeah.
Dan, do not sing, but please say something so they can test the sound.
Yes, testing.
All right, fantastic.
All right.
It happens all the time. When the streaming works, the local microphone doesn't. So there's a lot of things that happen in a streaming of media, audio and video, and most of the time the problem is between the keyboard and the seat, but not always. All right, Dan, all yours.
Okay, yes. So, hi, everyone. Yes, so I've been involved with W3C and IETF, two organizations I'm going to be talking about today, for many years. I started in '99 in W3C and 2001 in IETF. I've been an editor of many specifications in W3C, currently one of the primary editors of the WebRTC specification, and some other work going on there right now. But let's go ahead and move right on into the presentation. Okay, so the first thing I wanted to talk about is something that probably many of you know, but possibly not all of you. People often use the terms web and internet
Dan,
interchangeably. Yes.
we do not have the slide on screen.
You do not have the slides.
Please, can you share your
Yes,
screen
yes,
again?
yes. It did not show them this time.
Not yet. Yeah. I saw myself for a minute. That was frightening. Can you please focus on the slides?
Okay, can you see them now?
Perfect.
Okay, here we go. All right. So the web is not the internet, right? The internet is the plumbing. It's all the stuff at the low level that actually controls how information flows from one place to another. So it's the plumbing. HTTP, HTTPS, email, DNS, the internet protocol itself, of course, TCP, UDP. All of these are internet level protocols. The web is about content, primarily HTML. I'll talk more about that in a minute. Alex, do you want to say something about the
Right. So
IDA?
we did the slide with two levels in mind, the global level, right? So you guys get the global process and everything, and then in a different color, things that can be more of interest to the local people or the Asian community. So the government of Singapore recognized the difference between internet and the web and has created two different agencies to actually deal with that. So IDA is the one taking care of the internet and the infrastructure, including big data for smart nation in Singapore. And MDA is going to be the media development authority that take care about the content and blocking some internet site if they disagree with the content, and everything that is related to multimedia applications. So when you guys deal with the local government, keep that in mind, even though recently I think they fused the two agencies.
Okay. So I want to just give very brief history of internet and web. So the internet was started as many of you know, probably as a US government Defense Department project to connect universities and the US government. And then it actually, it grew rather rapidly to be a collection of different networks. And they quickly realized that there was a need for a better way to connect them together. And that way was the internet protocol, right? So the one that connects different networks. So even though today we think of the internet as one way, basically a way for any computer to directly connect to any other computer, it originally started as just a way to connect different local networks. And actually that is what the internet is today, despite our attempts to pretend otherwise with network address translators and so on. Of course, IPv6 promises the hope that we can still, I guess we can go back to the original or go to a notion where you can connect directly from one machine to another. But we probably will end up keeping NATs and firewalls for all the wonderful policy reasons that we know about today. So that's the internet. It wasn't actually until a good bit later that Tim Berners-Lee, a researcher at CERN in Switzerland, created HTTP, the Hypertext Transport Protocol, and HTML, the Hypertext Markup Language. What Tim realized, he was actually working with other researchers and realized that at the time, there were different protocols for getting different kinds of information. FTP, Archie, Gopher, these were all different protocols for getting information at the time. And it was a nuisance having to remember which protocol you were using, when really, as an end user, all you cared about was being able to access information that was stored somewhere other than on your machine. So by creating this standard protocol for fetching resources, and then creating a language, HTML, that made it very easy to link to and reference resources in other places, he dramatically simplified the use of the internet. So that's, I think, the main reason why people in general refer to these two as the same thing today, even though they're not. And that's because of what Tim Berners-Lee did. Now, Tim Berners-Lee did go on also to create the World Wide Web Consortium, which I'll talk about in a moment. So this is where the internet and the web came from. But I guess a good question now is, where does it come from today? What happens when changes need to be made? And the answer is all of us. We are the ones who make the internet. We are the ones who make the web. As you know, the internet today is not controlled by any one entity, any one organization. There are organizations that have strong influence over some of the architecture of the internet, but it is all of the devices, all of the individual networks that exist around the world that make up the internet. And it is all of the content that all of us create, and all of you in particular, that is the web. But of course, all of this works because of standards that exist. And it is the standards bodies for the internet and the web that, that define the protocols and the formats that make things actually work. So one interesting question, something that surprises many people, is how these standards actually get enforced. And the truth is they're not. I'm going to be talking about the organizations involved in just a moment. But these organizations are not official in the sense that, that governmental bodies drive them or support them. Actually, the standards for the internet and the web are just documents created by smart people, and people use them because they're good quality.
I'm going to interject here, Dan, to really rebound on that. There is no internet police, and there is no web police either, right? And the fact is, the people that actually create the web are people that are using it, so they have a tendency of doing the right thing. And I think, again, if I have to give an example that you saw today, it's HTTP2. HTTP2 is going to be used because it's really better than HTTP, right? It's really going to address a pain point you have today. It's faster, it's easier to use, it has a lot of things that were learned from HTTP and that evolved into something better and adapt to the current tool. But for that to be possible, right, we need to have feedback from the people that actually use the tool. So we get back to that later, but we need to know what the pain points are today with the current technology to make the next better one, right? And you're not going to use them because they exist, right? There are a lot of RFC, so specifications that are sleeping dormant because nobody really used them and they were pushed by the industry. And there are others like HTTP2 that really address a pain and are going to be used. And half of the people, including Dan and myself, that go to those committees are not paid to do so. They're just going there to do the right thing and because they believe into making the web a better place with you feedback, right? The nerd
That's right.
force.
Exactly. There's no one who actually makes us do it. Of course, there are, as Alex said, probably about half the people who are there not because they have a specific company position to represent, but they're there because they feel strongly about the protocols and the formats doing the right thing. This is really significant, okay? There are many other standards organizations in the world. Probably the most well-known ones in the tech space are the ITU, GSMA, 3GPP, etc. And these organizations create very good and useful standards, primarily for the telephony and mobile telephony industries. But for the internet and the web, there is no governmental support. It really is just a group of nerds that get together and try to make the right thing happen.
And
So
some people actually join some company because of that beliefs. Everybody I know that work at Mozilla, which is a non-profit organization, is participating to the specification to try to make the web a better place, not because they're getting paid to do it. That's actually the other way around. So that's a really exciting place to be surrounded by people that are not there because they're paid, not there because the company has an incentive or pushing their technology one way or another, but really trying to do the best thing for everybody out there. That's really rewarding for an individual.
yeah, at the last IETF meeting that just happened recently, I was talking with two first-time attendees, one from Tunisia and one from Pakistan. And both of them were really amazed, mostly at the quality of the conversations that happen. They were surprised to find that they could walk into those meetings and be talking with people directly at a deep technical level. That is exactly what you can expect at organizations like that, because again, it is the people who want the right thing to happen, who know what's going on, who will debate what should be done. And definitely if an idea is bad, you'll hear about it. But if an idea is good, people will listen to it as well. Okay, so the IETF, the Internet Engineering Task Force, is the group that defines the protocols for the internet. And it really is free to participate. There is a cost if you want to attend the face-to-face meetings, and that's just because it costs money to reserve the space. But keep in mind that the reason for that is that there is no one company sponsoring the entire event. They do get corporate sponsors, but the core of the meeting itself is supported by the fees that people pay to attend. And that's only when you attend the face-to-face meetings. Actually, all of the work is done, or the majority of the work is done on the mailing list.
Yeah, the remote participation to IETF is free. There is no membership fee, and everybody represent only himself, right? So you don't represent a company or anything. And really, the idea behind that is the internet is free, and everybody should be equal in voicing which way it should go. IETF meetings are the only meetings where you have maybe 35% of the audience, which are actually students that take the opportunity of having those meetings locally to learn from other people and to learn how it happens. IETF has that rotation rule where you're going to have 3 meetings a year and 1 meeting per continent to give everybody almost equal opportunity to at least once a year join the meeting and learn and participate. Right? Everything else is done online for free.
Right. The main reason for these face-to-face meetings is to get to meet other people working in your area and in other areas. So again, that's not where the majority of the work happens, but I would encourage you, if you've been participating on the mailing list for a while, definitely get started on the mailing list. But if you've been participating for a while on the mailing list, you might want to try attending one of the meetings. Just to give you another example of how hard the IETF tries to make it easy for any person to participate. There's one thing that people do at meetings that seems strange to most first-time visitors, and that is when it comes time to vote or get an idea in the room, how people feel about perhaps one approach versus another approach. Instead of actually doing a vote, the IETF takes a hum. And that's where they just ask each person to hum for what for their choice. And they did that because early on, when they had people raise their hands to indicate what they were interested in, they found that if someone was sitting there, let's say you're a technical person attending, and your boss is also there with you, you might have a different opinion from your boss. And you might be afraid to raise your hand because you might not want your boss to see that that's your opinion, because it might not be considered appropriate by your boss. But when people hum, it's very hard to tell where the hums are coming from. So that was actually done specifically to make it so that you can have your vote count and have it be anonymous, just to guarantee that you actually get the real opinions of the people in the room. Now again, it's only what happens on the mailing list that's official, but that can be good for getting a general idea for which approaches people prefer. Now, what does the IETF do? The IETF creates RFCs, requests for comments, another funny name. Basically, that's the end stage process in the IETF, is the request for comment. I'm not going to be talking today primarily about the IETF process. I wanted to focus more on the W3C process, but Alex, maybe you could say just a little bit about this.
Right. The good news is, I told you once, every year you have 3 meetings, right? One in every continent. And the last one is always in Asia. And it's been traditionally in North Asia so far. It was in Beijing the year before. It was in Seoul 2 weeks ago. Next year it's going to be in Singapore, right? And almost fully funded. So everybody that is in Southeast Asia will have something more local to actually go to and interact with all the people that create HTTP2 and create all the cool technology that you saw example of today. So that's a great opportunity to actually go and mingle with people and ask questions. It's not every day that you can actually sit and have a coffee with the chief architect of Microsoft Edge and that kind of people and ask them any question about not what they did, but why they did that. Today you saw a lot of example of what you can do with HTTP2, but then you don't know why they make this choice and not another choice, what are the next features and so on. Those guys can answer those questions, right? So I think it's a great opportunity, and I encourage everybody to go there next year, November, at Raffle Hotel.
Thank you. Since this is a developer conference, I want to talk more about W3C now. So the World Wide Web Consortium is the one that defines HTML. Membership is officially by company, but participation is free on the mailing list. There is one global combined meeting a year called the TPAC, but there are typically weekly calls and other face-to-face meetings for the individual groups. What W3C does is to create recommendations. So in W3C, if you have an idea, you can actually go and create a community group. You need one member of W3C to support you, and then some other people beyond that who express interest in it. But with that, you can create a community group. No cost to you, mailing list only, but it's a great place to discuss. Now, the moment you want to actually create a standard, you need to move on to the standards track. And for that, you need a officially created working group within W3C.
I think people don't stress enough the wonderful tool the community group is. And I want to give a few examples. People in Japan say, hey, we'd like to see about IPTV, or we want to see about media display web in vehicle, in cars, right? Or in subway and things like that. We don't know yet if it's going to be interesting. We just want to work, create a group, and be recognized. You can go ahead and create a community group in a few weeks. You won't be able to make a standard yet, but you can do all the preparatory work for a standard if you want to. And that allows you to have the full weight of the W3C behind you and the full organization with people that can help you actually prepare, organize, go in touch with the industry, and so on and so forth. So community groups are extremely cheap to organize. They're not limited to any IDE. That's really a great introduction for people that have an idea and would like to learn or explore or to work with the standard committee and the industry. That's something that can be done in the scope of a school program with the excellent university we have here in Singapore. I think that's something that's really underused today, and it's free.
Absolutely, and in fact, it's what W3C is encouraging people to start with. W3C is more and more asking individuals with ideas to start community groups, and then only request a working group once they've gotten to where there is very clear agreement on a path to proceed within a community group. So officially, I'm not going to go through this in detail. There are basically two main group stages in the standards process. There's working draft, and then there are various stages of the recommendation. The working draft stage is when you're working on the document. But at some point, you think your document is complete, and now you need to just demonstrate that it can be implemented, and that's the candidate recommendation stage. So the two main areas you'll see documents in are the working draft stage and the candidate recommendation stage. There's a proposed recommendation stage, which is mainly just like a 1-month placeholder before it goes to recommendation to make sure nothing is fully broken. But just think of it this way: working draft, you're working on it, trying to get it technically complete, and candidate recommendation is when you're trying to get implementations to demonstrate that it really does work. Now, unofficially, of course, the real process is that you're steadily increasing mind share, and that's why you begin with a community group. You get people interested, agreeing on what the real problems are and what the direction might be for a solution. And then in the standards process, you actually begin to involve you get wider and wider involvement from other groups besides yours to make sure that you're not going to break anything in the standard. And it's very important to understand that it's only those who actively participate that matter. Alex had pointed out here that in the WebRTC working group, there are 88 people registered in the working group, but only about 35 show up to the face-to-face meetings, and there really are only 10 to 15 who are actively participating in the decisions. So those are the people who are driving what happens. And that's the important point we want to make today. Google, Mozilla, Microsoft, and Apple know best, right? Well, no, okay, they think they do. I can tell you that for every group that I've been in, that those companies have participated in, and that's everyone, I have heard a statement from each one of them at some point: we know what developers want, so trust us. If you disagree at any point, then you need to participate. We really need more developer feedback. That's just crucial in order for this to work. Out of the 10 to 15 people who are actively working on WebRTC, I would say that maybe one is a developer, is an active developer who does not work for a company that is implementing the specification.
It's actually funny to see those 4 browser vendors claiming that they know what the web developer wants more than the developer themselves, especially when they disagree with each other. Right, when Mozilla, especially when Google goes frontal with Microsoft and starts saying, "I know what the devs want." No, I know what the devs want, and they have different opinion. But at the end of the day, that's really something we worried about. By we, I mean the people not working for a browser vendor. Is that we lacking enough feedback from the people that are actually using the technology, and it should be the first one that matter, which is you. And that's really the main reason why I reach out to Thomas and say, I would like to make that presentation and tell the guys, you can actually come and have fun with us and make a difference. We need you, right? Yeah,
so Alex, go ahead. Anything you want to say?
Yeah, I mean, so that's like contributed. The thing is, it's actually easy to follow and contribute, right? All the mailing lists are free. The process is easy. The process used to be very complicated to actually change the specification, the working draft, and so on. Now we're using GitHub, right? So you're a pull request away from contributing to HTML6. How long do I have? All right, 25
We're at the end of
seconds.
the time.
So you have two websites, the W3.org and the IETF.org, to actually go and document more. Next slide. But, you know, most of the evolution is in the public domain. Most is free, as in freedom, and free as in beer. You don't need to pay, and you do whatever you want. And we really need you, right? So if you want to make the web a better place for you, just tell us what you need. Last word, again, IETF is in Singapore next year. The government put a lot of money on the table to host it. It's a really, really special one. That's the first one in Southeast Asia. That would be awesome if you guys can go there. And if you're not clear about how you could participate, what you can get from it, and how to make it a wonderful experience, do not hesitate to send me a tweet.